Welcome to the Explainer. Look, today we're tackling something that is incredibly powerful, practically invisible, and absolutely runs our modern lives. You know, the average person interacts with an AI algorithm dozens of times a day, usually without even realizing it. We're going to pull back the curtain on the profound, real-world ethical implications of this hidden engine. Because while machine learning systems drive countless decisions every single day and are undeniably useful, they can also treat people unfairly, invade privacy, spread harm, and make choices that are notoriously difficult to challenge. So let's dive right in and unravel this hidden engine together.
Okay, here are our ethical checkpoints for today. We'll start with the bias in the machine, figure out who is really responsible, uncover the hidden societal costs, navigate the social media battlefield, and finally, bring it all together with a summary and real-world application. But before we even look at the data, we need to frame everything around one massive, fundamental pivot. In the world of machine learning ethics, we really have to stop just asking, can we build it? And start asking, should we actually use it this way? Because let's be real, technical capability does not equal ethical rightness. Just because an algorithm can predict an outcome or categorize a user, absolutely does not mean it's the fair or right thing to do.
Right, so that brings us to section 1, the bias in the machine. And here's the golden rule we need to establish right off the bat. Machine learning is literally never ethically neutral once it starts affecting real people. You see, the exact moment a system goes off the rails usually happens down at the microscopic level, with training data bias. Models aren't just born smart, right? They learn from the exact data we feed them. So if that data is incomplete, unbalanced, heavily skewed by history, or just plain doesn't represent the real world, well, we've got a serious problem. The model's literally going to learn and repeat those exact same biases. It essentially bakes our very human flaws straight into the code.
It's a massive trap developers fall into all the time. Think about a system that looks fantastic on paper, highly accurate, overall performance, high fives all around. But in reality, that exact same system can spit out incredibly unfair outcomes, like terribly biased hiring decisions or completely unequal access to loans. A model can totally seem technically brilliant across the board while simultaneously treating certain minority groups or demographics completely unfairly.
So, the required ethical response to this is algorithmic fairness. And guys, this isn't just about tweaking a few numbers. It means actively, intentionally reducing unjust differences in how groups are treated. Ethical machine learning means we can't just pat ourselves on the back for good overall metrics. We have to specifically ask, whose experiences are being ruined here? Who is being harmed? We literally have to hunt for the bias.
Moving on to section 2, who is really responsible? Now we're zooming out from that raw data to the individual user experience, asking what actually happens when these systems start making real decisions about you and me. When you break down accountability, these abstract ethical issues translate directly into tangible, real-world harms. Think about it. If a system lacks fairness, you get outright discrimination. If it ignores privacy, it leads to unapproved tracking, people completely losing control over their own personal data. If there's no transparency, meaning all these decisions are locked away in some hidden black box nobody understands, users are obviously going to distrust it. And finally, accountability. If we have no idea who is responsible, then when things go sideways, it is basically impossible for an everyday person to challenge it. Seriously, just think about that for a second. When the computer simply says no, maybe it denies you a job interview or a vital financial lifeline, who actually takes the blame? It's incredibly frustrating. In a perfect world, if you're denied a service, you should be able to question it and find out exactly why. But if the system has no accountability, you're pretty much just left shouting at a screen. And honestly, it gets even trickier when we look at how these systems learn about us in the first place. If user consent is vague, legally collecting that data is still super questionable ethically. Let's be honest, we all just scroll past those massive terms of service. Responsible machine learning has to respect data rights. It means sensitive info absolutely shouldn't be exposed or reused just because some company found a clever little legal loophole.
Which brings us to section 3, the hidden societal costs. Let's pull way back now and look at the massive planetary scale of these systems. The scale we're talking about here is truly mind-boggling. First off, large machine learning models require a massive amount of computing power. To put it in perspective, training just one major AI model can pump out as much carbon as 5 cars do over their entire lifetimes. That is a huge environmental cost. Then you've got the social side. Automation fundamentally rewriting global employment, and the very real danger of unequal access to these powerful AI tools. The benefits can be immense, sure, but large-scale adoption really risks making us dependent on systems that just widen the gap of inequality. So the big takeaway here is pretty straightforward. A model that is technically highly accurate, but is unsustainably expensive to the environment or socially damaging, is still a bad ethical choice, period. Real ethics in machine learning demands that we look way past just the individual user and seriously consider those massive environmental and social ripple effects. Okay, Section 4, the social media battlefield. This is where all these ethical issues we've been talking about basically collide and explode into our daily lives online. Machine learning absolutely runs online communication. It recommends your content, filters messages, moderates posts, and targets the ads you see. These algorithms actively shape what goes viral, whose voices are silenced, and who gets a massive megaphone. They aren't just passively hosting content anymore, they are highly active participants in deciding exactly what information reaches your eyeballs. And the platform designers are navigating an absolute minefield of complex ethical terrain here. Take anonymity, for example. On one hand, it's totally vital. It protects vulnerable users and whistleblowers. But on the flip side, that exact same anonymity completely shields abusers and makes online harassment an absolute nightmare to manage. It's a massive trade-off. There is no simple technical fix for this. It is just a really difficult ethical balancing act. Plus, because these algorithms are basically designed to prioritize engagement above all else, we see some really severe risks. False or misleading content tends to spread like wildfire, way faster than the truth. Bias moderation can accidentally silence very specific communities, and harassment can literally be amplified by recommendation systems that are just trying to push controversial, high-engagement content. Add in the privacy nightmare of systems analyzing your every click and behavior just to manipulate what you do next. We're talking about systems that influence not just information, but actual human behavior and societal harm. Finally, Section 5, Summary and Real-World Application. How do we practically take everything we've just discussed and evaluate these systems in the real world? Well, if you're evaluating an AI, let's say a new social media platform's algorithm, you need a solid, holistic checklist. First, start right at the core. Is the training data biased? Second, address the user rights. Are privacy, true consent, and transparency actually built into the platform? Third, you have to acknowledge the broader social impact, weighing the heavy risks of things like misinformation and harassment. And lastly, demand accountability. If this system breaks something or hurts someone, who exactly is on the hook to fix it? I really love this quote from our source material because it synthesizes the whole shebang beautifully. It says, ethics includes long-term impact, not just short-term performance. That's it right there. Truly ethical machine learning means designing, testing, and deploying these models with a constant, unyielding awareness of who might be harmed, excluded, or negatively affected over the long haul. Which leaves us with one final, pretty heavy thought. You interact with these hidden engines every single day. As algorithms increasingly shape your reality, from the news you read to the actual opportunities you receive in life, are you content just being another data point? Or are you ready to demand accountability? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll catch you next time.